Happy 2 million downloads everyone, Sober Oni of G&A Reviews here with a servant spotlight for the spookiest Lancer, Fionn. We'll be examining his stats and his skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize him effectively, and an overall grade comparing him to how he stacks up to the other 4-star servants. I also have a spotlight for the other 2 new servants, Beowulf and Brynhilda, linked in the description below, so please do check that out right after this. Now, on to Fionn's stats. Fionn has a max HP of 12,750, which is above average for a 4-star Lancer and very high overall among all 4 stars, surpassing even a couple of 5 stars. His max attack of 8,930 is below average for a 4-star Lancer, and if you take into account the 1.05 Lancer modifier, his attack becomes 9,376, which is slightly above average among all 4 stars. Now taking a look at his skills. His first skill is Clairvoyance rank B, which greatly increases your crit star drop rate for 3 turns between 19 to 38% depending on level, and that can be upgraded through a strengthening quest into Clairvoyance Beauty rank B++, which will increase the crit star drop rate of your entire party between 30 to 50%, and increase the Noble Phantasm gain of your party between 10 to 30% for 3 turns, both depending on level. His second skill is Trouble with Women rank A, which gives you a chance to apply Evade for 1 turn between 60 to 100%. It also applies Taunt for 1 turn between 100 and 300%, and decreases Charm Resist against females as a demerit by 80%, the first 2 depending on level. Finally, his last skill is Magecraft rank B, which increases Arts card effectiveness for 1 turn between 24 to 40% depending on level. Moving on to his passives, he has Magic Resistance rank B, which increases debuff resist by 17.5%, and Divinity rank D, which applies an extra 125 damage to his hits. Now his deck and Noble Phantasm. He has a light arts deck with Quick Arts Buster and a Arts Noble Phantasm. His Noble Phantasm is Makan Lewin, which deals heavy damage to all enemies with between a 450 to 750% damage modifier depending on level. It also decreases enemy attack for 3 turns between 10 to 30% depending on overcharge, and it negates mental debuffs for 3 turns. This can be upgraded through an interlude, which will increase the damage modifier to between 600 to 900% depending on level. Taking a closer look at his cards, we see his Quick card hits twice, his Arch card hits twice, his Buster hits once, and his Extra hits 4 times. His Noble Phantasm gain rate is 0.55%, and his star rate is 12.3%. What this means is Fionn has a horrible Noble Phantasm gain due to the 0.55% rate, despite having 2 Arts cards, and just average star generating just due to his 2 Quick cards. When it comes to Fionn, just burn him, don't look back. Seriously though, he is a bad Lancer, like really bad. Easily the worst 4-star Lancer, and one of the worst 4 stars period. He has a problem in every area. Firstly, his attack isn't anything amazing, and it's especially weak considering he only has 1 Buster card, but that can be overlooked if he had good skills. He doesn't have good skills. Magecraft B is arguably his best skill and the de facto arts buff for his Noble Phantasm. That's probably his one saving grace, but given his Noble Phantasm hits like a wet noodle, this won't do much to make it hit any harder. Clairvoyance pre-interlude is pretty bad because he doesn't particularly generate many more crit stars than the average Lancer, so a 36% increase isn't that amazing. Though post-strengthening quest it is much better, if only because it works for the whole party, so it can be pretty useful on a crit team. While those 2 skills can be decent, his last skill is just a joke. Trouble with Women may look usable and even good at first. I mean, a Taunt plus Evade is a killer combo. The trouble comes when you realize that his Evade is not guaranteed and he can miss it unless you max level it, and that's very expensive. Max leveling a skill just to make it functional isn't the best thing. The other problem with his skills is that they're all over the place and they don't fit into any particular strength of his. He has a support skill for crit teams in Clairvoyance, yet he doesn't produce enough crit stars to make himself a good crit support. He has a decent arts buff, but he has an extremely underwhelming Noble Phantasm, and he has a tank skill which does complement his high health, but he has no heal or defense buffs, and he needs the skill to be maxed just to use it functionally. If the dodge misses, Fionn just killed himself, and he isn't even that good at killing himself. Arash does it much better, so if you have to level his skills, go with Magecraft, then Clairvoyance, and then finally the kill switch. The one good thing I will say about his taunt though, is that once it is max level, it's pretty good, and the demerit is completely irrelevant since most servants don't have a charm. And if they do, it's going to hit you anyway because the AI cheats. His Noble Phantasm isn't worth mentioning. It's very weak and doesn't have any good overcharge or extra effects on it, and his Noble Phantasm gain is so abysmally bad he can't even spam it. To make matters worse, the two things he is most notable for, being an Arch Lancer and having a taunt, are both going to be overshadowed by vastly superior 4-star Lancers relatively soon. Li Xuan is coming out next chapter and is the stronger Arch Lancer in every imaginable way, and Vlad Lancer isn't too far off and has way more HP, a heal, a defense buff, and a taunt in his skill set. This makes Fionn completely pointless, not to mention I haven't even talked about Ku yet. Still, there is one way you can use him. Fionn is nowhere near strong enough to make into a dedicated offensive servant. Instead, your best bet is to just use him as a semi-arch crit / semi-tank support. For all his downsides, he does fare well on a crit team with Tamamo and Nursery Rhyme, and that's probably your best possible team comp with him. Tamamo can provide healing and cooldown reduction to make up for the horrible cooldown on Fionn's evade, and also heal him. Meanwhile, Fionn can support Nursery Rhyme by increasing the crit star drop rate of the party, and Tamamo's actually a decent star generator herself, so this works fairly well. And he can use his taunt to protect Nursery Rhyme from any major damage while her heal and defensive buff are on cooldown. And of course, his Arch stack will just keep the party's Noble Phantasm charge rate consistently high. Outside of that very specific scenario, he can pair well with defensive servants like Benkei, George, John, or Leonidas to protect a Berserker, or an otherwise frail offensive servant. And Waver and Hans can provide him with defense and healing respectively, or you can just burn him and get a rare Mana Prism. As for his Bondcraft Essence, Salmon of Knowledge, it increases the Arch card effectiveness and Noble Phantasm strength of all allies by 10%, and this is highly recommended since it complements his support role. Other than that, your best bets are 20, 30, and Be Elegant to increase his crit star generating, and if you want, Formal Craft will help with his Noble Phantasm gain and damage, although not by much. And the new Millennium Golden Tree Craft Essence is good on him since he needs the health to survive if you're going to use him as a tank. Overall, if I wasn't clear enough, Fionn is a horrendous servant. I struggled to find a good use for him. It really does feel like the whole reason he even exists was just to spook people who are rolling for Brynhilda. His skills are horrible until the strengthening quest, and they need to be max level just to become passable. His Noble Phantasm is horrible, his damage is bad, and he doesn't offer much tank support at all outside of his taunt, which a number of other even lower rarity servants do far better, and most 3-star Lancers are better than him, not to mention Vlad and Shu are vastly superior Arch and tank Lancers. That's why he gets a D from me. If you need a defensive servant with a strong taunt, George has you covered and he's a lot better. And if you need an Arch Lancer, just save your quartz for Xuan since he's coming up in a couple of months or probably even sooner at the rate this game is going. And those are my thoughts on Fionn. He's the worst Lancer. I'm curious to know how many of you he spooked, so let me know in the comments. And please check out the other spotlights up today on Bryn and Beowulf, linked in the description. I promise neither of them are as bad. And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. And if you haven't already, please join the party over at our Discord and follow us on Twitter. With that, I'll see you all in the next spotlight. Soberoni out. Later.